What are you 100% certain is true despite having no evidence to confirm or disprove your belief? BuzzFeed employees make us credit posts to help them write articles. One of my local radio stations does this for a fact. 2 days after a popular Ask Reddit, they ask their audience the exact question. You don't happen to be talking about Kane and Corey by any chance? A supervisor changed my days off at the last minute without telling me in an attempt to get me fired for attendance. I had a manager who wanted me to quit. I was supposed to work on a Thursday and came into work that day, and when I showed them the picture of my schedule from the previous Saturday when it was released, they said that they took me off the schedule the night before and that I had to go home. Absolute bullcrap. At least a couple of the countries I've lived you'd be entitled to a half day's pay. My cat knocked over the water glass on purpose. I don't even know your cat, and I'm also 100% sure of this. I know his cat. He didn't do it. Phone and internet providers start out solid and over time purposefully make the product worse to encourage you to upgrade. I think it's called planned obsolescence. Not only phone and internet providers do it, a ton of industries do. There's a Stuff You Should Know podcast all about it. It's really interesting / frustrating. Fun fact, the light bulbs we have are directly manufactured for planned obsolescence, since in the 1900s they were getting too good. There's a really good Veritasium election. My bond with my bearded dragon goes beyond he's warm. I understand the limitations of his tiny nervous system and that he isn't capable of affection. I just firmly believe that he not only wants heat and food, but that he finds my presence to be pleasant. That boy will come off his basking log as hot as hell ever need to be, with a belly full of bugs, and still come hauling over, just to fall asleep on me. I don't know what it is, but it's more than just him seeking the necessities. I believe you. I ended up with a 10-foot python. He definitely liked me for more than mere warmth. I had no idea a snake could have a real personality. I breed and sell ball pythons. All 85 of them have different personalities. Some are very sweet, some are very feisty, some hate being woken up from a nap, some don't care. All the ball pythons in the 3 retics recognize myself and my fiance. If anyone other than us handles them, you can see them get tense. Hand them back to us and watch them relax. It's pretty neat. I certainly didn't expect that when we got our first ball python together. Aliens exist all over the universe. Be it only some extremely simple organisms or those super advanced civilizations we see on sci-fi stories. I have no doubt life exists outside Earth. Given evolution is billions of chance mutations due to natural selection, it is unlikely aliens are anything like us. However, it would be interesting to see what variables remained the same, no matter the RNG. Big Mac keeps getting smaller. Pretty soon it'll just be 3 buns with a little grease stain between them. People with lower IQs are happier because they aren't constantly overthinking, looking for self-transcendence, analyzing everything around them, and expecting too much of themselves. There's evidence for this too. A big part of battling depression is learning how to prevent rumination, thinking about your own thoughts. It's literally a downward spiral. Yeah, I read somewhere once people with clinical depression actually tend to guess the likelihood of bad crap happening, cancer, car accident, etc., with more accuracy than non-clinically depressed people. Garbage trucks have loud brakes to give us one last chance to get the bins out. Oh, thanks for the reminder to take my trash out. The big hot pockets from a convenience store have different fillings than the small ones from the grocery store. I swear they taste different. If they are different size pockets / boxes, they could easily be from a different factory that uses different suppliers. I actually prefer the big ones. They used to sell them at my middle school for $2 in the alternative lunch line. I'm being pushed aside for leadership roles at my company because I'm a good reliable worker and they have a shortage of those. It's definitely something that happens. Asked an old boss of mine about something similar, and they came straight out with it. I need you in your current role more than in a higher position. I was perfectly okay with that, especially a little while later when raises came out. I was gonna say, as long as they hook you up and show their appreciation financially, then who needs the extra responsibilities and stress? Something in my old elementary school is causing people to get cancer. I lived in a small town, right around 4,000 people. I went to the private Catholic school in the area, which was even smaller. I graduated with 15 in my class and there were less than 300 students total at the time. Despite this very small amount of people, 6 students and faculty members have been diagnosed with cancer over the past 5 years. The odds are so unbelievably slim that I'm sure something cancer causing is in the building, but who knows what or where it is. Have the water tested small town. I'm guessing the possibility of wells could maybe be the water source the school is using. A school near me had this happen. Apparently it was built on a military waste deposit. They said the softball fields were always wet even in the middle of summer. Girls would be covered in mud sliding into base. My guidance counselor went there and her high school sweetheart died of cancer and she got breast cancer. They tore the school down and built a new one. Allowed to operate freely, corporations would gladly abandon any semblance of ethics to turn a profit, including ushering in the slavery and or deaths of their customers. They said something with no evidence. We already know about all this from the Gilded Age and Industrial Revolution for the past. Heck, regulations barely stop corporations from dumping toxic waste in drinking water as it is. People shrugged at a recent scandal over UK water companies dumping raw sewage into rivers 400,000 times last year. The fine was so cheap it didn't make financial sense to deal with the waste. It's the way a pure psychopath would think. Just cold, brutal, and selfish. Software updates at the end of a product lifetime will brick the device. If not brick, they'll at least make them obnoxiously slow. I'm looking at you, Apple. I've been avoiding updates on my 9-year-old MacBook Pro for a good couple of years for this very reason. Companies are offering monthly payment plans in an effort to normalize having a low income and high debt. Yes, a number of department stores just did away with layaway. You pay a little bit at a time until you've paid the whole price tag, and then you get to bring the item home, and in its place, introduced a credit system where you get the item immediately and have to pay monthly payments plus interest on them. You know the spirit of Christmas. Stores must love it, since they no longer need to pay for lay-by storage. The NFL politicized kneeling to distract from CTE research. Vincent Jackson died earlier this year and the autopsy confirmed CTE. He was a 3-time Pro Bowl wide receiver and died at only 38, yet the story of his death barely even made headlines. Vincent Jackson died. I don't know how I missed that. I had his jersey. Well, actually, I probably missed it because I have personally boycotted everything NFL since the Spanos pulled the Chargers out of San Diego to play second fiddle in a city that doesn't even want them. Lunch meat cut as thin as possible just tastes better. The flavors got nowhere to hide. I've cut pieces so thin I couldn't even see them. My coworker lies about her medical conditions. She lies that she has seizures, and while I can't prove it, I know it's a lie because she'll drive the same day that she claims to have a seizure. Anytime you mention any medical condition, she has it, and it's worse than your case. She has mentioned having toxic shock syndrome, colitis, and a bunch of other things I can't recall at the moment. One day we were talking about autism and she mentioned that her 22-year-old daughter, who also happens to work with us, was diagnosed as a child. A few days later the daughter casually mentioned that she had found out just recently that she's autistic. I wanted to tell her that she only just found out because her mom just recently made that crap up. I have a coworker that only limps when he thinks someone can see him. My dog does that too. Our dog knew my wife was pregnant before she did. Normally she was a sweet and lazy lovable dumbus who would hang out with whoever wasn't moving. The dog, not the wife. Then one day, she decided she wasn't going to leave my wife's side. She wasn't aggressive, but she wasn't going anywhere either. Followed her everywhere for a few weeks. Then spousal unit started getting sick and went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Let's check the obvious." And now I have an 8-year-old daughter, and that dog is her constant companion. My pooch was my first pregnancy symptom too. He never cared to cuddle on the couch, but all of a sudden he wanted to curl up with his head on my belly. My son's 1.5 now, and I call those two the trouble twins. They do everything together. Coke/soft drinks taste better in glass bottles than plastic. That reply about the can and bottle lining is part of it. But also, plastic bottles aren't impermeable to gases, so plastic bottles of Coke will typically be a little bit flatter than a glass bottle or a can. This is also why some factories overcarbonate their soda, which gives it a more bitter taste. People who buy NFTs don't actually exist, it's just a money laundering scheme. Someone recently opened a private art gallery / cafe that only allows in people who have crypto and or NFTs in one of the poorest neighborhoods in the city. Can see that going well. The only Bitcoin ATM in the podunk little city I am in is in the convenience store with all the drug dealers in the parking lot. There is at least one giant creature deep down in the ocean that we don't know about because we have never seen before. Like maybe one of those megalodon / plesiosaurs. We thought giant squids weren't real until we found one. Oh, and also maybe aliens. I like getting carried away with this stuff, and since there's no real 100% evidence that the answer is no, what's wrong with thinking it might be true? It's almost impossible that we don't eventually find more large deep sea life. Magna Pinna, giant and colossal squid are all fairly recent find, and I believe deep sea mining will lead to more. The issue is that the animals can't be that giant. Whale size is about the theoretical maximum. Anything larger than that should have flagged on a surveillance system of some sort by now. People, well, governments, are really good at tracking large objects on this planet. Personally, I think we'll find more mollusk type giants. I can totally imagine 30 feet deep sea clams or some giant species of deep sea eel. I just doubt it'll be anything particularly huge, bony or mobile. What if it's a static giant organism, like a leviathan sponge or something? What about that biggest network of mushrooms / fungi in the PNW that's supposedly a one living thing? I love that this is now my most upvoted comment. Sandwiches made for you are absolutely better than sandwiches you make yourself. Doesn't this have something to do with being desensitized to the smells of the food while you're preparing it? I'm no doctor though. I'm convinced that theme parks / fairs / carnivals pay people to walk around with giant prizes to make the games look more winnable and convince more people to play. The real conspiracy is that those prizes are actually worth less than the price of the ticket used to play the game. The person reading this is sitting or laying down. You got me. Holiday shaped Snickers taste better than regular Snickers bars. Same for special shaped Kraft mac and cheese. I have scientific evidence that the dinosaur chicken nuggets taste better than their round counterparts. The obtuse shapes of the prehistoric poultry pieces allows for a more thorough cooking of the meat slurry, and the edges grab sauce better and get a better, more even crisp. And I just added dinosaur chicken nuggets to my grocery list lol. Humans can communicate telepathically, we just don't know how to use it on purpose. This along with the whole emotional connection thing. My mum found me overdosing when I was a teen and there was absolutely no reason for her to break her routine. She always maintained something told her she would regret it tomorrow if she didn't check / say goodnight to me. My dad found me hanging myself. He was asleep upstairs. I was careful to be quiet, and he's a very heavy sleeper. He said he just woke up with an urge to go downstairs, and luckily he found me just in time. The correlation between feeling you're right and actually being right is low to moderate. This feels right. Lately, Disney has been trying to revive the old Steamboat Willie version of Mickey Mouse through merchandise and new cartoons drawn in the old fashion that nobody really asked for. I think they are doing all of that deliberately so that they can try to fight the scheduled copyright expirations on their old cartoons. Having the most upvotes doesn't mean the statement is true. Much more likely just means it was posted early or aligns with the major biases of the subits posted in. That my dad might be alive. He supposedly died in 2009. He was a huge paranoid conspiracy theorist to the point where he would bury his money, planted bushes to hide behind in case the government had a shoot off with him, and at one point thought we all had been replaced by clones. The only people who saw his body are one of my aunts and my grandma who had Alzheimer's. They told us he was cremated, and at the funeral there was no coffin, no urn. All there was a black and white photo from when he was 10. He was born in the 50s. I've yet to see his urn or death certificate, and it's been 12 years. He had connections to people who could have easily helped him fake his death. He also had the money to do this. People have also supposedly seen him in Indiana. They took a picture and tbh the guy looks just like him, only a bit older. Same hunchback, same tattoo on his leg, and he even walked with the same little limp. Dude, please hire a PI and keep us updated. I think someone following/investigating him would just solidify his belief of conspiracy. At least half the US government can't beat a 5th grader in 5th grade trivia. There are probably a ton of trivia questions a 5th grader would know better than me, or probably most adults. Trivia is a lot of repetition and memorization, and they're doing it roughly 180 days a year vs adults who pretty much do it never once they graduate. We are never going to contact intelligent alien life. It probably exists, but the universe is simply too big. We've let ourselves get carried away with sci-fi depictions of impossible technologies that we assume one day we'll be able to cross vast distance in the blink of an eye, but it's more likely that we just can't. As depressing as this thought is, I tend to believe it. The best humanity is likely to achieve in space colonization is settling, and maybe even terraforming other planets in our solar system and nearby star systems, but that's going to take so long that we should focus harder on not ruining Earth first. That's because we drifted too far from fax machine-based technology. That incompetence and self-interest is responsible for most of the bad crap that happens in world politics rather than conspiracies. Can confirm. I've spent the past few years involved in local government in the US, township, city council levels, and wow, the incompetence is astounding. The nutjobs claiming conspiracy have clearly never attended a single meeting, and listen to some of these elected officials speak. Some modern art is priced so high because rich people utilize it for money laundering. Saw it on a Reddit conspiracy comment and I haven't been able to shake it since. You could be right. But my mom is a professional artist, painter, and I can tell you that there are a lot of bad artists out there who absolutely make bank, and it all comes down to marketing. There are good artists who make decent money, and good ones who don't. And there are terrible artists in both categories. But rich people don't like to be told they don't know what they are doing. So if a bad artist convinced one wealthy person that the artist's work is great, it has a domino effect. That person shares their discovery with friends, and everyone is too afraid to say actually, I kinda think that sucks. It's an emperor's new clothes kind of situation. That my sweet, innocent shy dog is a diabolical mastermind who creates scenarios that get my hyperactive dog into trouble in order to maintain his favorite title among friends and family. I've seen some things. Poor Wendy. That the Polynesians made it into North and South America long before anyone else. I'm talking like 4,000 years ago. Ancient Polynesians were so good at circumnavigation that they knew exactly where they were going roughly 2,000 years before their counterparts. It wasn't until 1759 that Europeans knew how to figure out where they were at sea, latitude-wise. That was when a sextant was invented. There is no physical evidence of them making it to the Americas, however they have made it equally as far west, so why not east? Also, and I know this is not evidence, but there is a tribe in the Amazon who believes that their people were saved and brought from their original homeland to the jungle on the coast of Peru. They don't describe a god, they describe others bringing them from super far distances in a ship and then leaving to go back that incredibly far distance. That tribe has had DNA tests done, and they carry a lot of the same DNA as Polynesians, all the way into the center of Brazil. The DNA comes from between Papua New Guinea and the Andaman Islands, from the Bay of Bengal, and even some from the New Zealand area. Edit. To all the people telling me that there were humans in the Americas long before 4,000 years ago, I'm aware. I don't mean this rudely, but I was more so talking about the explorers that discovered these places. I wasn't really including the original natives from about 20,000 years ago, because they're the natives. I was more so discussing the difference in sailing and navigation abilities. Also, somewhat discrediting current scientists that say it wasn't possible for them to make it that far. I'm not saying Polynesians were the first people ever to step foot on the land. All I'm saying is that we give credit to the Portuguese and Spanish for discovering South America. when the Polynesians, in my opinion, had to have gotten there about 4,000 years before the Europeans. The natives who have been there for 20,000 years didn't sail there, they walked across Beringia. I'm talking about ship sailing mostly. I appreciate all the discussions though. I do really find this fascinating. Anthropology major here. There's also some really interesting linguistic evidence for this too. Sweet potato, known as Kuma/Kumara in some tribes in South America, was widely cultivated across the Pacific prior to European contact, and really, intriguingly it has the same name as in South America, with some minor cultural variations. Kumara on Easter Island, Ula on Hawaii, Kumara in NZ, etc. The odds of a crop dispersing over thousands of kilometers against prevailing ocean currents from a major landmass to some smaller islands is low but not impossible. But two major groups of people adopting the same name for it is impossible without them having had some kind of face-to-face contact. Wow, that's even more incredible. It's so incredible to me how impressive of sailors they were so far before any major civilization today. It's so fascinating to me. I hope they find definite evidence someday. Intelligent life exists outside of our solar system. Aliens exist. Hopefully soon, the new hyperspace bypass through the Milky Way will begin construction. I've seen no plans of this. I'm convinced that the electronics items sold at steep discounts on Black Friday are the ones that don't test as well at the factory. Like, when they do quality control tests, the ones that rate 90% or whatever are the ones that are tagged and sent out for Black Friday sales. Couple family members work for Best Buy. They both have said never to buy Black Friday products because they are specifically made for that purpose. Apparently they have unique SKU numbers that identify them as a Black Friday item as well. Literally it's a straw product marketed as though it's the same as models sold during the rest of the year when really they are made using sub-material/manufacturing that allows the company to still maintain a similar or even higher profit margin. TLDR, Black Friday deals are purposefully made crappily and marketed to you as the same product you would buy normally. Aka, you're being ripped off. I work in manufacturing. This would be more expensive per unit than just giving them away. The massive supply chain involved would need to be completely duplicated and separated from the standard supply chain. Or to sell a handful of units on one day. The only reason electronics are so cheap is a massive established logistics chain that supports it. The Loch Ness Monster is a little dinosaur ghost. I would highly recommend believing this, since it doesn't hurt anyone to do so. Makes me smile thinking about him. He's just looking for $3.50. Whether they realize it or not, even the most sincere people that do reviews for stuff within a certain hobby/interest don't provide their real opinions. If they are too negative about too many products, companies won't send them stuff. If they say stuff too far outside the groupthink of their community, people won't want to watch their channel anymore. As a result, most of them are simply putting their own spin on what the general consensus tends to be. Lockpicking lawyer would like to have a word. This isn't the first universe. This isn't the first time any of this has happened. This one trips me out a lot. Like, okay, so we know that viruses and bacteria and atoms are just microscopic specks that cannot be seen by our naked eye, right? What if, in this giant solar system, we are simply those atoms in a much larger body? Like Earth itself is being looked at as an atom for whatever is way bigger than us? The frick, man. I think about this way more than I should, and I don't even smoke weed anymore. I have been thinking the same since I was a little child. What if we, our universe, are just tiny particles in an object/organism so big that we are not capable of experiencing its existence? So glad to find someone else suspecting the same. Deflategate was intentionally spurred on by the NFL to distract from concussion lawsuits and domestic violence headlines. I figured it was intentionally spurred on by ESPN, primarily because they have a desperate need to fill airtime, and it was the perfect type of storyline to constantly generate updates and reactions with a strong emotional response purely confined to the arena of sport. That this thread, which appears about once a month, it seems is actually being created by Reddit itself to drive website traffic. I'm on to you, BuzzFeed. Law schools have made the vast majority of the legal profession a huge echo chamber. You can say this about literally any field of academia. That the leader of Scientology killed his wife and burned the body and bribed the police to get away with it. Sure, she isn't happy, healthy, and alive. Facebook and other apps listen and advertise accordingly. Did you see that new Toyota truck? Man, Toyota trucks are great. Enjoy your truck advertisements. Yuri Gagarin was not the first person to go to space, just the first one to survive. My border collie is waiting for me in heaven. Spirits of nature. Anyone who has lived close to a forest for some period of time has weird unexplainable stories to tell. I've seen some real weird crap. I live very close to the Atlantic forest in Brazil. I don't give a crap about how crazy I sound or how many times it's been debunked. I believe in ghosts, or at least the presence of the supernatural in our world. The world is actually run by corporations with the government as a guise to keep the masses in check. The 1% dictate how the world economy is run, while the government ensures the 99% don't kick up too much of a fuss that could topple its balance. The force surrounds us, penetrates us, binds us together. The vertical Bari is no benevolent deity who's interested in our individual daily lives.